Guys, I'm so happy to see you. This is the road to Belgrade and to Podgorica, and we are now in Mitrovica. This is the second time I'm in Mitrovica on my Pax Europiana tour. I was already here, some might remember, in the summer 2021. I showed you Mitrovica as it is, and now I'm back again, and I'm very happy about it because it's an amazing city. It's a lot of progress here, and there is huge economic potential, and it's a city of peace and a symbol of unity. Because we don't want to have divided cities in Europe, and we have unity in Kosovo. Obviously, there is also a lot of self-governance already, because the Ahtisaari constitution was done by the Europeans, by Ahtisaari. It's actually working very good. We don't need a new association or some complication. We need, of course, a decent European future and NATO future, and of course we have the euro already here. And you see, it's working. It's working, and we don't need any kind of Serbian advice or kind of Vucic kind of extremism. We need just peace in the Balkans, and we need clarity, and we need also unity, and of course we need a Europe of the regions, yeah? And the regions here luckily have already very good self-governance competencies. And obviously what we need is more investment from the European Union to clean it up, because here you see Trepča. This is huge industrial legacy, similar like Elbasan. This is what communism has left over, a complete disaster. And now it's rotting for 20 years, and before it was a failed investment, and now it's a failed investment, and it's a huge environmental disaster. So all these leftovers of the communist industrialization have to be cleaned up by the European Union. Otherwise these countries will never have the opportunity, and it will just rot away. And that's a big disaster. So I'm calling here for the European Union to massively invest in the Balkans to overcome the legacy of communist Yugoslavia and a kind of disaster industrialization. The same for Albania and the same for Kosovo, because these were all war-related industries which had no economic usage, and they were extremely damaging for the environment because the communism didn't care for the environment. Yeah? And so who else to clean it up? The countries will never have the fiscal space to do it. And so the EU has to really massively invest in the clean and green future of these countries. And yes, it costs some billions, and yes, blame it on the communists. And who else can do it? Otherwise we'll leave it rotting for decades. And so only inside the EU, and with a credible, of course, massive package of cleaning up the legacy of Yugoslavia and of the Soviet Union, we can really achieve progress. And it's one European environment. You see here this massive thing. And this will also create business opportunities, the cleanup industry of this. And then also there is, and that's true, massive mineral wealth in Kosovo. But you cannot ask the investor to clean up all the mess of the Yugoslavia for 50 years or for 100 years. You need to separate that. The state must take responsibility for cleaning up the environmental legacy of Yugoslavia, and then the investors must be on a decent terms be invited to invest in a normal mining business. That will be very good for Europe. We are always complaining we don't have the rare minerals, we don't have a lot of minerals and a lot of resources. Why don't we lift the resources of the Balkans? The coal resources, the metal resources, or for example of Bosnia and Kosovo in a decent way, because they are there. And just what we need to do is to clean them up decently and to get this done. And to get it done in a decent way, there's all the opportunity. And Mitrovica could be like Linz, and at the moment actually it's not. And this is something we need to get done. And the EU has to take the responsibility for the member states in the future, but treat them like member states. Because now I listened to Adam Tooze, the famous international economist, and he said we should basically treat Kosovo, also Ukraine. He was talking about Ukraine, and he would estimate it will cost 100 billion to reconstruct, and that's the money we give anyhow to Poland now for the next financial period. Yeah? So the same for Ukraine. I think it will be much more expensive. We need to basically $1 trillion, but we can dilute it over time. And that's the way to do it. And it's much better inside the European Union. Because why to spend so much money for outside? So inside the EU we have regulatory access, we have the euro, we have the security that less money will be stolen and less money will be risked, because it's basically inside our binnenmarkt market, in our internal market, in our currency, in our political system, in our stable situation. And the people drive a bit wild here, and she was greeting friendly when she taking our priority, and that's of course completely normal. Anyhow, this is Mitrovica now. It's beautiful, but it needs massive European investment, because the state or the people or the companies cannot really clean up the legacy of a failed Yugoslavian system left over because of their warmongering kind of industrial megalomania to build all these factories for no economic reason, and then they are left behind in a gigantic pool of disaster. And then who should do that? And it can only happen inside the European Union. That's the logic of Europe. We have cleaned up Eastern Germany and the whole of the 13 countries which joined in between, from Malta to Estonia, from Lithuania to Bulgaria and to Cyprus, and all these things were extremely expensive, and we did it inside the European Union, and that makes a lot of sense. And what the hell happened to us that we didn't clean it up in the last 20 years in the Balkans, and especially since 2013 when Croatia joined? We made a complete disaster, and that is the question, and that is the problem. And that's what I'm calling for inside. And now I will show you this beautiful city when we walk and talk you through this beautiful place and this amazing Mitrovica, a famous place, a partly divided place, and I will share all the information I have. I will show you the city as it is. I will try to give you a perspective directly, firsthand, how the city is happening, what's really going on, and what we can do as Europeans to help this country to join the European Union, to be united, to be prosperous, to be successful, and to be a good contribution for peace, for happiness, and for the future, and for a very successful Republic of Kosovo in an even more successful federal Europe of 37 member states. And that is the beauty of it all, because that's the magic of Europe. We've done it in 2004, in 2007, in 2013. We should do it in 2024 and in 2029. And shame all enemies of enlargement. And really, they are serving only Putin and Russia, and they are the victims of their own involuntary kind of intellectual arrogance or racism or whatever is their problem. I don't know it, but I cannot understand it, and I lost all patience to accept it. Who is against enlargement is my enemy, be sure about it, and is the enemy of Europe. And what we have to do here is to enlarge and to open Europe and to include Kosovo, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and of course beautiful Bosnia, and one day even Serbia, if they really see the light and break with Russia. This is the logic of it all. We are now entering the bridge area. Over there is the beautiful bridge. Here is I Love Mitrovica. There are some administrative buildings, there is some action, and I will keep you posted here from this city. And I think that was the good entry into that beautiful city. Isapolitini, I think, is that one. And here is the whole of Mitrovica, the mole of Mitrovica. And here is the bridge. It's open, but it's not for traffic. And we have reached the destination of our next part of the leg and of the journey. And we are here, and we can basically say goodbye to our taxi driver and risk to be dropped into Mitrovica. And it will be just fine, because it's a peaceful and nice place. And I'm very happy to be back in Mitrovica. Thanks a lot. More to come from Pax Europiana here from European Mitrovica on the way to the European Union. Bye.